Today we are going to be adding and subtracting decimals. So as we saw in the video just a little bit ago, we have some rules that we have to follow. They are not very difficult rules. They're quite simple. So our first rule, or our first step, as I have here, is going to be to line up the decimals. So you're going to be writing down the notes just like I am. So for step 2, we saw this in our video as well. Sometimes we don't have as many digits in our numbers. So what did it say in the video to do if we don't have enough digits? So we're going to add zeros or place zeros as placeholders. We won't always need to do that, but sometimes we need to do that. It just makes it easier on our eyes to keep everything in line, especially when we're starting out. Okay, so if we have lined up the decimals in our numbers, and then step 2, if we write zeros as placeholders, if we need to, now what can we do? We can go ahead and add or subtract. But there's one other little thing I want us to keep in mind. And we had to do this earlier in the school year. And you guys can help me out. What do we say to the end of this? If the decimal's not in sight, it's on the right. That just means it's a whole number, correct? All right, problem number 1 says Sarah drives 23 7/10 miles by car and 7 9/10 miles by train to get to her grandmother's house. How many miles must she travel to visit her grandmother? So first we have to determine, is this an addition problem or is this a subtraction problem? And how do we know? Are we adding or subtracting? Yes, ma'am.
How many?
Okay, so how many, like, all together? So are we adding or subtracting?
Adding.
We are adding. So let's just write over here on the side. This is addition. So the two numbers we are going to be adding are right here. So I'm going to take my 23 7/10 and I'm adding, keeping in mind I'm lining up the decimals in the numbers, 7 9/10. So I know that my decimal in my answer is just going to come right down here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and highlight. This is where our highlighters are going to come into play. I'm going to highlight my decimal. So that's going to show my brain that my decimals are staying right there in a line. So now we just add or subtract. So in this case, we're going to add. 7 plus 9 gives me 16. 1 plus 3 plus 7 gives me 11. 1 plus 2 gives me 3. So she must travel 31 6/10 miles to see her grandmother. All right, number 2 says, my mom gave me $16 to go to the movies. The tickets cost $8.25. How much money will I have left? So is this an addition or a subtraction problem?
Subtraction.
It is subtraction, so let's write subtraction over here. And what word or words gave it away? How do we know it's subtraction?
Left. Half left.
How much will I have left? So really that word left. And we kind of know this because this is a real world problem, right? So mom gives me $16. I'm gonna spend $8.25 on tickets and I want to have some candy, right? Okay, so we're gonna take our 16, but oh no, I don't have a decimal point. But I'm gonna remember, if the decimal's not in sight, it's on the right. And now I have 8 point, there's my decimal point, 0.25. So now I'm going to head on over to step 2 that says write zeros as placeholders. So that's just going to keep my mind. It's going to keep my mind right. So now I'm going to subtract. 0 minus 5, well, I'm going to have to go over and borrow. Well, I can't borrow from over here, so I've got to come all the way over here and borrow from the 6, and that's going to become a 5. This 0 here is not going to become a 10, it's going to become a 9 because I had to borrow from that 10 to make this one become a 10. So now I have 10 minus 5 is a 5. 9 minus 2 is a 7. I'm going to bring down my decimal point. I'm going to highlight. I like to highlight just to remind myself that all my decimals are in a line. Now, 5 minus 8, can I do that? No, but I can if I borrow over here. So this is going to become a 1. This is going to become a 15. 15 minus 8 gives me 7. So I'm going to have $7.75 left from my mom. All right, number 3, between 6 o'clock p.m. and 8 o'clock p.m., the temperature fell 5 and 25 degrees Fahrenheit. At 6 p.m., the temperature was 62 and 4/10 degrees Fahrenheit. What was the temperature at 8 o'clock p.m.? So are we adding or are we subtracting on this one? We are subtracting. We sounded a little bit confused there. So this is a subtraction. So the reason we know that we are subtracting is because it says that it fell. That's kind of our idea of word right there. So at 6 o'clock, it was 62 and 4/10 degrees. And it fell 5 and 25 degrees. So we want to know what was it at 8 o'clock p.m. So it fell by this many degrees. So we're taking our 62 and 4/10 degrees, which is what originally it was at 6 p.m. And we're subtracting how much it fell, which is 5 and 25 hundredths. Okay, so step 1, we lined up the decimals. What does step 2 tell us to do? 0 is a placeholder, so I need to have a 0 here as my placeholder. So 0 minus 5, I have to borrow from the 4, which makes it a 3. My 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 3 minus 2, I was getting ready to write a 2. Oh my goodness. Is 1. Bring down my decimal point. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. It just shows my brain that all of them are right there lined up together. 2 minus 5, oh, I need to come over here and borrow from the 6. The 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. Bring down my 5. So the temperature at 8 p.m. was 57 and 15 hundredths degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, problem number 4. We are going to decide whether each statement is true or false. So the first one says 8 and 35 hundredths plus 7 and 9 tenths. So we're just going to work it out over here and see if we also get 16 and 25 hundredths. So step 1, line them up. We did that already. And then I see that I also need to have a 0 as a placeholder. So 5 plus 0, 3 plus 9. I'm going to bring down my decimal point. 1 plus 8 plus 7 is 16. So this is going to be true. The second one, 5 and 31 hundredths minus 3, does it equal 2 and 31 hundredths? We shall see. So I need to put a decimal point here, and then right here and here I need to fill in with zeros. Okay, 1 minus 0, 1. 3 minus 0,
3.
bring down my decimal point. 5 minus 3, 2. So is that true?
Yes.
Yes, another true one. All right, next up we have 94 and 43 hundredths plus 74 and 9 tenths. Does it equal 169 and 33 hundredths? I have them lined up. I need to put in a 0 as a placeholder. 3 plus 0 is 3. 4 plus 9 is
13.
13. Bring down my decimal point. 1 plus 4 plus 4 gives me 9. 9 plus 7 gives me 16. So 169 and 33 hundredths. So that is true. So my last one, we are adding 183 and 7 tenths plus 28 and 34 hundredths. Does it equal 467 and 1 tenth? So I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that just being a mathematician, as we all are in my classroom, 183, which is close to 200, adding 28 is never going to give you 400 and some. So just keep that in mind. But we will go ahead and add just because we need the practice. So I'm going to put a 0 placeholder here. 0 plus 4, 4. 7 plus 3, 10. Put down my decimal point. 1 plus 3 plus 8, 12. 1 plus 8 plus 2, 11. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So this is going to be false. So just keep in mind that as you're being a really good mathematician, you could have looked at that one right off the bat and said false. Okay, so number 5 says Miss Chen's 5th grade class held bake sales on Tuesday and Thursday during lunch to raise money to buy science equipment for the classroom. They raised $20.55 more on Thursday than on Tuesday. Use this information to fill in the data that are missing from the table. So the first thing we needed to do was fix this error. So we marked it out and we put $50.55. So my bad, everybody. That should say $50.55. So we already did a couple things to our paper. We highlighted this box because this is where I suggested that our students should start. And then once you had this box, because it's kind of like a puzzle, then you could go ahead and start solving for this box. So who wants to tell me, how did you solve this box? What did you do? Yes.
You subtracted 50 and 55 hundredths and 21 and 45 hundredths.
Minus $21.45. So that's correct. So when you subtract, you get a 0, 1, with my decimal point, because remember, we're still working on decimals. That's the name of the game here. So you're subtracting. I can't do 0 minus 1 without borrowing. So this becomes a 4. This becomes 10. 10 minus 1 gives us 9. 4 minus 2 gives us 2. So right here in the first lunch, they got $29.10. So now that I have this little subtotal, and I have the second lunch subtotal of $26.35, how can I find out the third lunch subtotal? What can I do here? Yes?
Well, add the first and second lunch, and then subtract that from the total.
Okay, so I can add the first and second lunch, so I can do $29.10 plus $26.35, and you guys don't be shy, you can help me out. 0 plus 5 is 5, 1 plus 3 is 4, put my decimal point, make sure those are in a straight line. 9 plus 6 is 15, 1 plus 2 plus 2 gives me 5. So now that I have this, tell me what I needed to do to find this out.
You need to subtract that from the total.
Good job. So I'm going to take my 86, 70, subtract 55, 45, and that's going to get me this total of my third lunch. So I'm going to take 0 minus 5. Nope, got to borrow. This becomes a 6. This becomes 10. 10 minus 5 gets me 5. 6 minus 4, 2. Bring down my decimal point. So they all stay in a line there. 6 minus 5 is 1. 8 minus 5 is 3. So now I have 31.25. Where do we want to go next? One of you told me, or we talked earlier, that I could find out this box by reading the directions up here. What did we say we could do?
You can add 21 to 26,800.
Go backwards there. It says they raised $20.55 more on Thursday than they did here. So what do we have to do? Which operation? Subtraction. So we've got 86.70 minus $20.55, because if they raised $20.55 more on Thursday, this right here is Thursday, so they raised $20.55 less on Tuesday. So we have to subtract. So we have to borrow from the 6 or 7, and it becomes a 6. This is going to become a 10. 10 minus 5 gives us 5. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. Bring down our decimal point. 6 minus 0 is 6. 8 minus 2 is 6. Okay, now that I have that total, what can I fill in now?
The Tuesday box, the last one on Tuesday.
Okay, so the last Tuesday box, so we're talking about this one right here. Sure, we can go there. How do we do it? It's kind of a two-step equation there, right?
First and third, and subtract that.
Okay, so we can add the first and the third, and then we have to subtract it from our total. So I have to do 21.45, that's here, plus 25.90. Five plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 9 is 13. Bring down my decimal point. 1 plus 1 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 2 is 4. So that's when we're adding these two. And then we subtract that from our total down here on Tuesday. So we're going to take our 66, 15, and we're subtracting 47.35. Everybody with me? Give me a thumbs up if you're with me. Awesome. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 1 minus 3, you got to borrow from over here. Take away 1. So the 1 becomes in 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. Bring down my decimal point. 5 minus 7. Can I do that by itself?
No.
Gonna borrow. This becomes a 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. 5 minus 4 is 1. So in this box is 18. Doesn't look like a very pretty 18. $18.80. Okay, what box do we want to shoot for next? I've got one down here, one down here.
Like the total.
Okay, the total down here?
Yeah.
Okay, fine by me. How do we find it?
You add up all. This would add 66.
Okay, 66.15 and what?
86, 70, 86, 70.
Fine by me. Okay, so down here we're going to take 66.15 and 86.70. 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus 7 is 8. Bring down our decimal point. Highlighting it to show that we're keeping those decimals in line with each other. 6 and 6 gives us 12. 1, 6, and 8. Pause, let everybody think about it. What is it? 15. So our grand total is $152.85, but we're not totally finished because we still have one box left to finish of our puzzle. How do we find it? Just like we did this one. So how do we find this one?
You add those totals.
Add these two totals together. So I have 18.80 and 26.35. 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 plus 3, 11. 1, 8, and 6.
15, 17.
I forgot to highlight my decimal points. It's one of my favorite things with that highlighter. Then 1, 1, and 2 makes 4. So you could do another check across here to add all three of these and make sure they total up to $152.85. But I am here to tell you that they do. Good job, everybody.